let me say, yeah, okay, a little bit slowly, and in this way. Oh, yeah. So now, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. As usual, please introduce yourself to our audience. John, please.
My name is Joe Martins, and I'm a former software engineer and marketer, business analyst, technical writer. I spent years, almost 2 decades, working with Fortune 500 companies and also startups in the tech industry. Then I came to China about 5 years ago and helped manufacturers here or there in China sell to the West. And over the past year, I took all of my skills and began helping people throughout China to improve their conversational language. So that's what I do these days, is help people communicate better in English in China.
Okay, it's my turn to introduce myself. My name is Lyu Guo, the founder of Suntrans. 20 years ago, I graduated from Northwestern University and taught senior high school English for 3 years, and also at the same time studied English for 3 years for my second bachelor degree at London University. After that, I came to Beijing, China University of Geosciences. I studied geology. And later I went to the United States to study for my PhD in Miami University. And also when I came back to China, I finished my postdoc at Peking University. And also I worked for China Geological Survey and the globally largest mining company BHP Billiton. And today we will have, in the past 10 years, I have been in more than 30 countries to help Chinese companies to purchase mines and oil fields, and we have a translation company located in Beijing at the gate of Tsinghua University, and also have a consulting company in New York. Besides that, we have separate branch offices in Toronto, in Canada, and in Uganda, in Africa, and Lahore, Punjab province in Pakistan. And we on the one hand, we provide translation services for our clients in the industries of petroleum and mineral resources, and at the same time we organize a lot of international conventions and conferences regarding translation and mining investments. So, and recently, maybe about 2 weeks, since 2 weeks ago, we, John Martins and I, make some program every day to help Chinese people to improve Chinese, to improve English, and also we try to help people become more understanding to the differences between China and American, and also let's move to today's topic. At the very beginning, would you like to tell me, John? Would you like to tell me why you choose today's topic, the Great American Wealth Illusion? Okay.
So, I chose this because when I came to China several years ago, one of the things that was very interesting in my conversations with everyone is that Hollywood and television have made American perception of Americans and America very specific, as a very wealthy, technologically advanced nation. And while some of it is true, the reality is a little more complex.
Yeah.
And when I tell people in China it isn't quite what Hollywood presents, they can't believe it. Wow, they expect, for example, New York City to look like Shanghai, and it doesn't. It's much older city. So this presentation is about specifically American wealth. Many people in China probably have an impression of how much money and prosperity there is in America. And I want to balance that so that not only can they learn some of these English terms, but also learn a little bit about American wealth along the way.
Okay. Let's now let me also give our audience a few maybe 20 seconds to forward our links to our WeChat group or our friends. 那么今天呢，我跟 John 呢是在这儿做节目，那也欢迎大家把我在你直播的右上角那3个点，你可以转发到朋友圈，或者让更多的人受益。那么现在给大家10到30秒钟的时间，可以做一些转发，感谢大家。那么我和 John 呢在这儿做一些节目，帮助大家提高外语，了解中美文化，以及了解各国的这个趋势和最新的信息。感谢大家的捧场，我看到已经有46位朋友已经进入了这个直播间。那么也希望朋友们能够，如果我们觉得我们做的节目好的时候，也可以打赏，在左下角这儿有一个赏字，可以打赏。也欢迎大家多多转发，帮助更多的人提高外语，以及提高对国际的最新的这些信息的认知。新到的朋友也可以在这儿签到，你可以写上你的姓名以及你的单位。Okay, now, yeah. Okay. Before, I think, before you talk more about the recent news, I want to give you about my impression. American is poor or rich. Maybe 17 years ago, when I got started to study for my master degree in China University of Geosciences, I remember my professor, Mr. Lyu Guo from China University of Geosciences, invited one professor who Kurt Freihoff. Professor Kurt Freihoff graduated from Stanford University. He came to teach us ore deposits about magma. And after class, we had dinner together, and I told him I had a girlfriend, and we will soon get married. So he asked me, how will you to get married? I could told him my hometown was located in northwest China, Gansu province. He said, I remember it's very poor. I said, yes, economically not very rich. He said, most likely you will ride a donkey and with your wife and together go to your home. I said, no, we have car. He said, I don't believe. From movies we can see Chinese people or get married in some ways, but especially most places are very poor in rural areas. And another impression, he said, Chinese people are very good at kung fu, very strong, like Jack Lee or somebody. They can jump. They are able to jump from one bamboo to the other one. That is, I guess, he told me he watched the movie 卧虎藏龙. Means a lot of very talented people. So in some degree, we can say movies will influence people's recognition. Or the country is poor or rich. Anyway, so maybe sometimes it's not true. Nowadays, everyone have to admit that American still is number one all over the world. Everyone know the country is very rich, and these days when maybe a lot of tragic things happen in America, especially economically. So now please talk about your opinions. And your first topic is about what's an American. Okay, please, John, it's your turn.
Yeah, so let me start by saying that, I want to define what an American is, because I think sometimes people have, again, an impression of an American based on movies and TV.
Yes.
The first thing is that the ancestors of modern Americans are from all over the world.
Yeah.
Everywhere. There is not a country or continent on this planet that doesn't have someone that now lives in the United States. And many of them are multiple generations.
Yeah.
So you will find Chinese American families, Japanese, French, English, Scottish, everywhere, Turkish. And so we call it a melting pot because all these different ethnicities and nationalities coexist.
Yeah.
That means point two is you end up with a diversity of beliefs and attitudes about, yesterday we talked about raising your children.
Yes.
We've talked about other social issues like education. They have attitudes about that are based on their culture back home.
Yeah.
And so, as a country, one of the challenges with a population like that, when you have 327 million people from different backgrounds, is finding a common ground where everybody, you don't necessarily always get what you want, but we find somewhere in the middle where many people are happy or more happy. And so that's the second thing. It's diverse. Financially, it's also very diverse, but not in a good way. In the past 60 years, we went from a society that had lower, middle, and upper class that was fairly distributed,
right,
to a society today that is almost the same as American society in the 1920s, before the Great Depression. Meaning there is a very tiny percentage of extremely wealthy people.
Right.
And there is an enormous percentage, about 90%, of poor or low-income people.
Yeah,
so
I remember there is a principle that is 20% maybe occupy 80% of the treasure or of the whole country, and 80% just own 20% of the treasure.
It's even worse.
Even worse. Very, very few people.
Even worse now.
On the top of the pyramid, a lot of people are billionaire, very rich, extremely rich, but most of people are extremely poor.
And in fact, the way that we divide it is we say the bottom 99%, then there's the top 1%, and then there's the top 0.1%.
Yes.
And that top 0.1% is massively wealthy, hundreds of times more wealthy than even the top 1%.
Yeah.
So think of it as billionaires.
Yeah.
A handful of billionaires, more millionaires, and many, many poor to low income people.
Yeah.
So financially, America is very diverse. And then we are also what I call debt and fear driven. We're very, we want to live a better life than our money allows.
Yeah.
So, if you only earn $100, in the 1950s, that meant you had only $100 to spend. You spent it, it was gone. You didn't spend more until you made more. In the 1960s and 70s, that changed. Credit was introduced, and that really changed American life, many people believe, for the worse. Because now, instead of saving, many families are spending more than they make. And we'll get into that a little later, but very, very debt-driven. The next point, number 5, I say we're sort of religious. Meaning, if you ask the average American if they are religious, approximately 3/4, 75%, will say yes. But they're not really practicing. They're not active. It's somebody who identifies this way, but they're not what I would consider truly people of faith. So we have that influences a lot of the rules and laws that govern the U.S. So even though there are Americans who aren't religious, there are many who are kind of religious.
How many people are Christian believers and Catholic believers? Can you tell me roughly the number?
I don't know the exact current number, but it's going to be in between 70 and 80%, because Catholicism is considered a part of Christianity.
Yes, a branch.
So if you take all Christians, they that say they're Christians, again, they don't necessarily practice, but that they say they are. They represent in between 70 and 80%. And of that, there's probably maybe 10+%. I'd have to look up the number, but Catholic, and there are many thousands of denominations. So, and then 20% or so are either non-religious or agnostic. They don't decide either way. But it does influence American law. It influences American monetary policy. It is deeply rooted in the politics of America. And the last point is Hollywood always picks the best stuff, right? You see the best dressed people driving the best cars in the best cities, living in the best apartments. That's not America. That's a tiny part of America. Not even this tiny. Tiny.
Yes. We know from the Bible that is the Matthew effect. Matthew effect mentions that the God will let the poor people become poorer and let the rich people become richer. So if you have very, very little goods, maybe the God will take it away. And if you have been very rich, the God maybe will give you more gold or some treasure. And so anyway, go extremes. This is a basic rule, a Matthew effect for the whole society. Everywhere it exists.
One of the most amazing parts of banking in China versus banking in America currently is the banks in America charge all sorts of crazy additional fees. You pay fees for practically everything you do. So basically, in America, you give a bank your money. And that money, they're supposed to hold on to it for you.
But
they take your money, of course, and they loan it to other people, and they charge interest, right? That's how they make some of their money. But modern American banks also charge you to hold your money. So they say, "Oh, Dr. Liu, you want to put some money in our bank? Excellent. How about we charge you 2% to put your money in our bank?" And you say, "What? Wait." It depends on how much of a balance you have, what bank you go to. There are many factors, but there are many Americans, millions of Americans.
In this point, in some degree, also totally different about some people say for Chinese parents or Chinese families, usually they deposit money into banks and or very frugal. Maybe they themselves they eat not very good, just very common food. But they save a lot of money and send their children to study in the United States or other countries. Frugal is one characteristic. The other is deposit money into bank. But for American, a lot of people even maybe spend some money in advance, get a lot of money from bank. So if something terrible happens, maybe they almost cannot survive. So their basic life opinions or life philosophy and for currency, for money, they are totally different between Chinese and Americans.
In fact, think of it this way. Remember what I said before. I said Americans are made up of many ethnicities, many nationalities. If you look at many Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese families that come to America, they take that same frugal thinking to America. You know, they save, they spend within their budgets. So there are millions of Americans who are frugal.
Yes.
But there is a much larger number of Americans who aren't. And they spend more than they earn. So what I did was I wanted to include two slides, the next two slides, that basically show Hollywood.
Here is fiction, kind of not a real life.
Slides. One of them shows the television show Seinfeld and Friends, and of course the movie Rambo.
Yes.
And that's not America. I mean, yes, if I walked around in America long enough, I will find people like this. But that's not the average America that I live in every day. The next slide is closer to what the reality of what we are. We are everybody.
Oh, we are common people, average people.
Yes.
Not a very extraordinary ones.
No, we're just everyday people. We definitely don't all look like the actors and actresses on TV. Those are the prettiest ones and the most handsome ones.
Reality. One is paradise. The other one is hell.
So when people, you come to America, if you're expecting, Brad Pitt and Justin Bieber, and I don't know, the Trumps. That's not America. America is much more diverse and definitely doesn't have as much money.
Right.
So, the way that I divided this presentation is into a few parts. One is about infrastructure, so that you can understand that what you see on TV and the reality of the infrastructure, the roads, the buildings, the bridges, in America, I want to explain what's happening.
Yeah.
And then I look at U.S. wealth, meaning the overall wealth of the country.
Yeah.
And then I look at taxation.
Yeah.
And explain how it affects us. And then I quickly look at the national and personal debt, meaning our individual debt and the debt of the country as a whole. And hopefully, after you see this, you will have a better understanding. It is, don't get me wrong, as a nation, it has a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
But most of that wealth is in the hands of a very tiny number of people.
Yeah.
So hopefully, when you look at these slides, you will be able to understand why that is. It's not too different from rural and metropolitan China. You know, Beijing versus a village. Very, very different lifestyle. So same in America. Don't think that everyone in America is driving a $100,000 car and living in $1 million house. That's just not true. So if we can go to the next slide, the U.S. infrastructure.
Yeah. This is where?
This is nationally.
Nationally.
Yes.
The road is needed to be repaired.
Yes. Oh, everything. Remember, for China,
yeah,
the major cities were built in the last 10 to 30 years.
Right.
Right. So many of your cities have great new technology.
Yeah.
They have, the buildings are new, the roads are beautiful. Now, imagine in 100 years. Will the buildings still be beautiful? Will the roads still be nice? Will the bridges still be beautiful? Well, look at the United States. Once we built that infrastructure, some of it was built as old as more than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
The highway system in America is about 70 years old. I mean, we build new roads, yes, we build new bridges, but the most of the American highway system is about 70 or so years old. In that time, it needs a lot of work, a lot of repair, a lot of maintenance. But what happens is a state takes tax money from the citizens.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to use it to improve road, improve a bridge.
Yeah.
Basically keep the infrastructure looking nice. But oftentimes they spend it on other things. And like the military. We have one of the most expensive militaries in the world by billions of dollars.
Right.
We're crazy with, it's unnecessarily large military, but too late, we spent the money. So the infrastructure today, to fix it, to make the bridges safe, to make the roads safe, to fix the buildings, you're looking at about $4.5 trillion US dollars.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's about 280 trillion RMB. I don't even know the word trillion in Chinese.
Yes. Just ago, you have described a lot about the development of the real society in America, and it occurred to me about two keywords. One is about the population, the other is about private. Firstly about the population. China's population is extremely huge, about 1.4 billion, very huge population. And nowadays, it seems so many people in all of the world the population about 7 billion people. So more people and more high productivity. And the Chinese people have gone to all over the world, every countries. You can everywhere you can see a lot of Chinese. So it helped people to build the whole country, especially in China. So even in the period of Chairman Mao, generated a lot for the whole society, generated a lot of offspring. And nowadays, that's good for the society because more people, much more powerful, and have more people can devote to the construction of the whole country. And so, but American the population it increases, but not as quickly as that happens in China. And so, although immigration helped American to develop, but the population is still not so huge. And the second reason, I guess, in China government is very powerful, very strong. If government say, okay, we are trying to repair one highway or to construct a subway or have a train, a railway, anyway, or the efficiency is pretty high. As long as government order people, almost it can be finished within very few days, including currently, it's extremely terrible novel coronavirus happened. The outbreak happened in Wuhan, Hubei province. So when the central government thought, we must deal with it as quickly as possible. So in China, so many provinces, every province arranged some hospital teams to go there, and also maybe 10 days, Huoshengshan Hospital or and Leishanshan Hospital, all of them were built. Only in 10 days, very huge hospital, very advanced hospital were built. It happened in China. But American, maybe the land was private. If government needed to do it, no, some the citizens say, oh no, we cannot do that, we must wait. Or if we consult, the consulting process maybe waste some time. I think I cannot say China is really, we do not give comments about the systems. I mean, just as far as the implementation about some very important infrastructure, it really exists, including in every year, almost every year. I went to, in the past 1 decade, 10 years, I went to Toronto, Canada, and the local people told me, 10 years ago we were trying to repair one subway, but up to now, almost without too much progress. So I asked him why. Just because some people disagree. You couldn't occupy my land. As a result, mischieved. The plan was mischieved. So in great degree, if the government was not strong enough, if everything in some degree we say, that's private, that means very hard to do some public construction. So infrastructure is so slow.
And the U.S. does have something called eminent domain. Eminent domain does allow the government to take your property if it is considered to be for the good of the public. So if they want to build a highway and they come to you as a private landowner and say, will you sell the property because you want to build a highway and your property is in the way? They will offer you some money, usually market value, and then if you refuse, they will go to court and take just take your property from you
Mm-hmm.
by eminent domain. Now, it's not used as much as it could be,
Yeah.
but mostly because of what I said in past presentations. Americans tend to dislike when the government tells them what to do, even if it's for the public good. So private landowner might say, I don't care if it's, if the highway is going to help everyone. I still don't want to sell my property to you. You will get people like that. So in China, one of the advantages of the way that the government works is it just does it.
Right.
It says, oh, I want to build a hospital. Hey, send 20 construction companies to build a hospital. Here, it would take them 20 weeks just to get agreement on, who's going to build the hospital. So, very, very different style, but it's just part built into the culture here.
Right.
Nobody likes to be told at all what to do. They're rebels. We're a very rebellious bunch. So the last point, number 4, what I call a Band-Aid culture. And I have a picture there. A Band-Aid is a bandage for your arm or for your body. We use the word Band-Aid to mean a temporary fix.
Okay.
So we live in a culture where if the road is damaged, in China, maybe the government says pave the whole road.
Yeah.
Just do the whole thing. Here, we will say, oh, there's a hole. Patch that hole.
Right.
Oh, another hole. Patch that hole. And maybe 10 years from now, pave the road. And so we always put a Band-Aid on problems. Fix the bridge a little bit. Don't fix all of it. Part of it is budget.
Yeah.
You have to here you have to have the money.
Right.
And part of it though is what I told you earlier. The government is spending money on other things. It's putting money on, military when it could put money on feeding its people. When it could put money on building safe bridges. Instead, we're building, fighter planes and warships. And people like me, average citizen, you feel like you have no control of it. You pay your tax to that government, and then it makes decisions that many times you might not agree with. So we end up putting Band-Aids on our bridges, on our roads, on our even our phone network, our electricity grid. It's all getting older and more outdated. So in China, where you see beautiful, fast internet, where you see clean, modern, fast trains, that's not here. You won't find anything like that, even in our biggest cities. Not in New York, not in LA, not in Chicago.
In big cities, maybe develop the economy in big cities.
It's more
maybe develop very quickly. But for average cities, for other common places, maybe not so quickly. For example, last winter, about December and October, my wife went to visit the Miami University in Ohio, Oxford city. Over there, about 2008 and 2009, we studied over there, and almost 11 years passed. My wife said, "Oh, she wanted to visit old friends, some Americans, some Chinese, some teachers, professors, and some local people, and we regularly went to church, and some priests are still there. She went to visit them." And one extremely important impression on her was that the road was still all of the roads still the same. The buildings, some are more newly built buildings, but not very many. Almost the place seemed petrified, still the same. 11 years passed, almost without too much development happened in the place.
Yes.
So
that's right. Right.
Most places are still not as quickly as those in China.
Development is very slow. And
Yeah.
if you're accustomed to Beijing, if you're accustomed to Shanghai, and you go to New York City, you're going to be shocked because it is not as modern. The payment system, you're not going to be using WeChat to make your payments. Many places still use cash.
Yeah.
The roads, they're not going to be quite as clean and smooth and beautiful. The buildings are, in some cases, 50, 75, 100 years old. So, or older. Some of these buildings in New York are much older. So, the next slide is a great example.
I can. Okay, before you move that, I can tell you our impressions. When we were very young, maybe 10 or 15 years old in 1980s, as long as we mentioned New York, Los Angeles, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, all of these places, in everyone's eyes, this is the most beautiful and developed places. Actually, nowadays we can say maybe 10 or 20 years later, we found something happens. It's totally different from our imagination.
Yeah.
And even some people, when I went to Los Angeles, I thought, it's almost the same as Shanghai, Beijing, or Guangzhou, almost the same. And even in Hong Kong is still very developed, but not as developed as I expected or imagined in the past. And what's more, one thing is, some foreigners came to Beijing. They said, when I drive a car in the city, even 1 hour later, I was still in the city. I found it's too amazing. The city is so huge and a lot of very high buildings. So in some degree, especially Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Beijing, these big cities have been very, very developed, even compared to New York or Toronto. For example, Toronto sounds like this is a financial center of North America. But maybe the center part still a lot of high buildings, but just over there, I'm not sure how many square kilometers. Except that other places are still very poor. Even like most of the buildings are not very high, not very many. So at least in some degree we can say, in China has made a great progress in the past 40 years. In the past 40 years, China made a great progress.
Very much.
Yes. So,
yes, very much.
Just go. You mentioned you want to say another this one or this one?
The slide that says urban.
Yeah. Okay.
And in that slide, you see 4 photos. The top photo is New York skyline. Which,
yes.
From a distance, it looked very city-like. It looks like, Pudong. Across from, it has that kind of look to it.
Yeah.
On the bottom photo, that's one of the churches in New York.
Yeah.
Beautiful, very wealthy. But
Yeah.
if you look on the left side,
Yeah.
that is a picture of a New York subway.
Oh, you. This is New York subway. Wow.
That's a New York subway.
Mm.
So if you're familiar with, if you take Shanghai or Beijing subway, think of how much newer. That subway is many decades old. And they will probably not upgrade it even in my lifetime. I will die before that subway is new. and then on the right photo, that's a typical road.
Yes.
The many of the roads in America, if you travel enough here, if you come and spend 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you drive around, you are going to see some roads great, some roads you'll say, wow, I never thought I would see this. But you can. And then on the next slide, in rural America, sure, we have beautiful mountains, we have beautiful trees, we have beautiful little churches in small towns. But we also have people living in poverty, millions of them.
Right.
We will cover it later in this presentation. But there are people who they don't live in nice homes like in Beijing. They don't live in nice homes. They live in poverty. And so you have to balance, yes, America does have some beautiful, nice, wealthy, things, but we also have the other end as well.
Okay.
And that last slide of the bridge, this infrastructure, the cost of this infrastructure is so high that politicians avoid spending money on it when they should be investing in it. Instead, they spend their money elsewhere.
Yes.
As a result, you get things like that bridge. In 2007, that bridge that was not being properly maintained or repaired collapsed, and it killed a bunch of people. And it injured many more. And that, unfortunately, is more common than it should be. You will see road damage, bridge damage, dams, communities where a water dam will break and the water will flood the communities. Many examples of this. So, there's a real cost to the people, to the everyday people like you and me. When the government doesn't put money into keeping the infrastructure safe. So, when you visit here, absolutely you will see some very beautiful things, but you'll also see that, there's another side to America.
Okay, here I have some questions, and I'm wondering the average incomes for some people, like professors, and some people who are working for governments, some officials, and some people who are working in a supermarket, the salary. Before you answer me, I want to ask our audience. I remember maybe about 12 years ago, 2008, when I was studying at Miami University, some professors' incomes, salary, monthly about 6,500 RMB. If they are working for some business schools, maybe much higher, maybe 9,000 US dollars, even more than that. But currently, and for a postdoc on campus, maybe 3,500 RMB, or of the maximum about 5,000 RMB. This is the number was were from 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. Nowadays, my question is, for an average professors, how is the range of their average salaries monthly? How much? Okay, let me ask our audience and say their answers, and then later you can give us the average salaries or incomes for a lot of people. Let me give everyone about 10 or 30 seconds to answer. 那么我们就说，一个教授在美国呢，大约能够赚多少钱一个月，多少美元？大家在这儿可以打下你自己的数字。我们给20到30秒跟大家互动一下。一个美国教授大约在校园里头能赚多少钱？也欢迎大家转发，大家在公屏上可以打出来。究竟是3000呢、8000呢、15000还是2万美元每个月？大家在这儿打出你的数字。这美国教授通常一个月能赚多少钱？你也可以给一个范围，美国人通常能够赚多少钱一个？You can sip some water. Okay, please tell me your answers. How much money for most people can make money, especially for professors on campus or some government officials? Tell us some range, their monthly salaries.
Okay, so
yeah,
as you can imagine,
yeah,
if you take the best schools down to the average, below average schools,
yeah,
or college. This is college. The range is large.
Yeah,
it goes from about $50,000 US, which is about 350,000 RMB, on up to 160,000 US dollars.
Wow,
which would be about 1.1 million RMB.
For the top universities or just average universities? I mean here.
That's the range for all of the average would be somewhere around 110,000, so approximately 700,000 RMB.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but again, it depends. Are you teaching at Harvard and
yeah,
MIT, or are you teaching at University of West Virginia?
Yeah,
that will make a difference. And then some of the other, I pulled up some of the other occupations just to give you an idea. Software engineer, average currently 63,000 US dollars, about 420 RMB. An office manager, 40,000 US dollars, which is approximately 280,000 RMB.
Yes.
And a nurse, approximately 50,000 US dollars, 350,000 RMB. And that's annual. That's annual.
Okay.
So, and of course, it depends also, just like in China, it depends on the city that you teach in. The employer that you work for will affect your numbers.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to pull back up that presentation. Oh, okay. So great.
Yeah. Okay.
The next slide is about the wealth of the country as a whole.
Right.
And what I've done is I've included 4 points and then 4 slides, each with a graphic that I want to show you and talk about.
Okay.
So the 4 points are, and I've said this before, it's concentrated. It's super concentrated. It is at the top 0.1, not 1%, 0.1%. So 1/10 of 1% of American people control a massive 70+% of American wealth.
Wow.
And yes, it is the largest inequality gap since the 1920s. In the 1920s, before what we call the Great Depression, 1929,
Yeah.
it was the same inequality. And then the
Yeah.
Depression caused the country to reevaluate how it treats its people.
Are you talking about this picture? I mean, the table here reaches the 0.1%. Do you need this one? I'm not sure if you can.
Which?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't got to the table yet.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the 4 points
Okay.
on the wealth slide.
Yeah.
And remember, I said there's 3 classes
Yeah.
in the U.S. There's what we call lower income,
Yeah. Lower.
middle income, yes, and high income. And this class, which for the last 60 or so years has been the largest
Yeah.
and a decent, a good standard of living. This is disappearing, and it's leaving much fewer people in this class, more poor people, more wealthy people, or and again, when I say more wealthy people, it's going from this to that.
1%.
It's not going from this to it's like, ooh, 2 more wealthy people. 5 million more poor people. So the 4th point is 40% of Americans are considered poor or low income. That's amazing. We're supposed to be, you'll hear the U.S. government call us the number 1 country in the world, best country in the world, all these different phrases that they use. But the reality is, how can we call ourselves number 1 when 4 out of 10 people are poor? And I don't mean a little poor. I mean very poor. So again, if you have an impression that a lot of Americans are doing very well, a lot of them are.
Most of them are still not easy to survive.
We call it living paycheck to paycheck. They earn their paycheck, they pay bills, they pay debt, and then
stressful.
Their money's gone. And then they make their next paycheck. And so that's known as living paycheck to paycheck. Means you have no savings, or almost no savings. The last figure that I saw, the most recent, was that 83% of American households don't have $1,000 of emergency cash to spend.
Really?
They have a.
Are you kidding?
No.
No kidding.
8 out of 10 people less $1,000 that they can spend in an emergency. Meaning, if their car needs to be repaired, if their apartment needs something, if their kids need something, if they have a health issue, they have less than 1,000 US dollars
Right.
to spend. That's an amazing and shocking figure. When people hear that, they say, I don't believe it. And I say, research, and you will see that approximately 8 out of 10 Americans have very little savings. So, it's, yes, in some ways there are some great things here in the U.S. Cannot deny that. I've had the fortune to experience it for many years, but don't let it give you the impression that everything is perfect. When at home, when you find yourself saying, "Oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. I wish this was different. I wish that was different." Guess what? Here in America, people are doing the same thing. I wish this was different. I wish that was different. If you spoke to the average American and told them what you worry about every day, they would say, me too. I worry about the same things too. And yet we live in two countries that are fairly culturally different, but same underlying challenge, same underlying worries and fears. Now, the next 4 slides have some graphs.
Yeah.
I want to show some of this. So the first graph shows you.
You mean this one or this one? The richest point is 0. Okay, you are trying to introduce this one.
So
okay,
that's the wealth distribution.
Okay, top
in the U.S. This top salary in the 0.1%.
Yeah,
is
the left one.
And net worth is much higher. Most of America is that tiny little left column, the one that looks like a line. It doesn't even look like a column. Where it says bottom 80%. That is the average wealth of typical American. So when you see Bill Gates, when you see Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, they're on the right side. They're in that big blue column. That's very different. It's a very different life.
Right.
And they will never understand the people on the other side. That's two very different lives. They're like we say, they are like night and day. Really opposite.
Yeah.
So, and then in the next slide, this shows you, based on year, what the sort of the inequality between the richest people and the poorest people since the 1920s. And if you look at that graph, you can see back almost 100 years ago, inequality was the same as it is today. And but the government, after the Great Depression, the government put in many, we call them safety nets.
Right.
Social Security, which is guaranteed income when you get older and can't work anymore. Medicare, Medicaid, which is basic health care for some Americans. It's not available yet to all Americans, but when they did these things, it contributed to more people that were here being able to come up and live a better lifestyle. It was for maybe 40 years, it was more equal.
Yeah.
But that changed right in the 1970s.
1970s.
And
Oh yeah.
in the 1970s, it changed, and it hasn't stopped since. It's gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it was common for a CEO to make 20, 30 times more income than one of his employees.
Okay, so
Now,
from here, you want to show us the gap between the richest people and the poor people is becoming wider and wider, especially from
wider and
1970s until now, right? Correct?
yes,
Yes.
and it keeps going up.
Uh,
It's the trend right now. That trend is upward.
yeah,
So it's only getting worse.
yeah.
And still, there's the people at the bottom
Mm-hmm.
feel helpless. They feel like, they have no control over this because the people at the top have accumulated so much power within the government that I don't even refer to it. As an American, I don't call it a democracy.
Yeah.
I call it a plutocracy. It's run by wealthy people. If you don't have money in America, you don't make the rules. And that is not a democracy. That's not what, we were supposed to be. But that is nonetheless what we are today. We're run by very wealthy people,
Right.
very wealthy companies. So that next slide is a graph that basically shows you the red line is the wealth of the top 1%, and the blue line is the poverty level over time.
Mm-hmm.
So poverty in America, there were periods where it was a little lower,
Mm-hmm.
but it hasn't moved that much for many years. But meanwhile, the top 1% get more and more wealthy.
Right.
And of course, the people at the bottom get very upset because they feel like they are left behind, like nobody cares about them. And so, it's a very it's challenging because they are the majority of the people in the country.
Yeah. It happens in many countries. Even in China, the gap also is enlarged constantly. I guess it's almost the same. Yeah.
Yeah, the people in the rural communities, in the villages,
Yeah.
they feel like nobody listens. No practice. And this is a worldwide problem. Not just one country. It's in many countries around the world. Same problem. Even that next slide, the fourth one, that just shows you the concentration of wealth over time. And notice the two peaks back just before the Great Depression and the last financial crisis in 2008. The concentration of wealth is so high at the top,
right,
in that tiny number of people, that right now economists in the U.S. believe that there is another depression that will come. They can't tell us exactly when, but they feel that the factors right now are ideal for a depression, and something like what we're experiencing now, coronavirus, that may be enough of a trigger to cause it.
Yes.
It's unfortunate, but when the U.S. starts shutting down businesses
Yeah.
and limiting travel, China, you remember just a couple weeks ago
Right.
how, it was shocking. You say, wow, I can't go where I want. I can't buy what I want. Well, it's happening now. Apple closed all its stores. Nike closed all its stores.
All globally,
Disney.
every store is closed.
Disney.
Disney also closed.
All its stores.
Wow.
Many brands have either closed or limited hours. So Walmart and Costco, they have reduced the number of hours they're open each day. They just recent, within the last 48 hours, many states have said close all restaurants, close all drinking bars, clubs like KTV in the U.S. close. So this is unprecedented. This has not happened in America in my lifetime, and in fact,
it's the first time for your life, for your whole life.
First time, and so many people, they don't even know what to think of it because they are accustomed to, if I want to eat at a restaurant tonight, I can go out, but now they can't, and so we're wondering here, will this now cause a recession or worse, a depression?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Here I want to remind you one point is that this early morning I read one piece of news from Australia. Two Chinese were killed by the local people just because they put on their face masks, so that some people say,
Where was this?
In Australia. In Australia, some Chinese people who put on face mask, they were killed by somebody on the street, and some people say just because it happened yesterday. It happened yesterday. Just because in Australia, only those patients they needed to put on masks, and maybe some Australian people thought Chinese people brought the coronavirus to Australia, so they were resentful to Chinese people, so that they killed some people. And what's more, another reason is maybe in some degree in China, the government told everyone you must put on your face masks. It's normal. Everyone think we should do like this. But in Australia, because some people are not very knowledgeable of the virus, and even some people go extremes, think, if you wear your face mask, that means you are not good, and kill them. Actually, they are very foolish, even lack of some knowledge, ignorance some knowledge, ignores some facts. So I think in America, a lot of people must also be fully informed about the novel coronavirus. How does it infect people?
So there's a couple things there. First,
yeah,
there are people in the U.S. government, unfortunately, and U.S. citizens who spread inaccurate information.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they are talking about. They're not knowledgeable, but some people listen to them, and so you will hear some, not all, politicians in the U.S. They still refer to the virus as the China coronavirus, which is stupid. It's silly.
Yeah, even President Trump this morning mentioned from his Twitter. I just before our programming, I watched his Twitter. He mentioned, we must provide a lot of support to our airlines and other things, also to prevent the Chinese virus. So the word in some is not correct. Yeah.
Yes, he unfortunately he's a very ignorant man, and he happens to be president because he was elected by some very ignorant people. But unfortunately, he has a platform, Twitter, and the media, where the stupid things that he says, people hear. They hear it. Now, someone like me, I'm intelligent enough to know that he's an idiot. But there are many people that, they're going to either agree or believe it. And so you do get stories, news stories, where some man on a subway in New York harasses a Chinese man and woman because they are wearing their masks. It's ridiculous, but this is ignorance. It's not about American. It's about ignorant person.
Right.
So you have to, when you look at a country, you want to separate. No one can look at China and say, everyone is good, everyone is bad, everyone is smart, everyone is stupid. That's very ignorant, right?
Right.
Same thing in America. If you look and say, everyone must love their president.
Not really.
No. Many tens of millions, more than 100 million do not. But and you might think, wow, is everyone attacking people who are Chinese or who look Chinese? No. Many Americans are smart enough to know that this virus, it's not from a specific country. It could have happened here.
Yeah.
It could have happened in Australia. It happened in China.
Virus doesn't have the nationality. Virus is just a virus everywhere. Ubiquitous.
That's right. That's like saying dirt has a nationality. No, it's dirt. So if what I would say here in the U.S., the cities tend to be, not always, tend to be more understanding because they are more diverse.
Right.
You are likely to find people from China and Japan and Turkey and Austria in big cities.
Right.
The little towns tend to be mostly European.
Right.
And mostly white. And mostly ignorant. They're gonna. By the way, if any Americans are watching this, I'm right.
You're right. Yes.
I would gladly have them come on so that I can question them about their community.
Shall we move to the next slide or not?
Yes. Yes. The taxation.
Yeah.
So, taxes in the U.S. are based on your income, and what you do is you pay your tax, and then every year you fill out paperwork, your tax forms, and the government decides if you get some of that money back from the government. So if you pay $10,000 in tax, maybe you get none. Maybe you get 1,000 back. We call it a refund.
Yeah. Here I have one question. Sure. We know, like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, these very rich people, a lot of them donate most of their treasures or their money to a lot of money to other places. Yeah, even so. Do you think really these rich people are so generous, or what's the reason why the rich people in America would like to donate their money to some church or some organizations? Okay, tell me.
I think so. Not all rich people, right? It's some. But I think as we get older, what happens? When you're young, when you're 20, when you're 30, you're thinking about babies, houses, cars, bank accounts. As you get older, you realize it's about people. It's about family. It's about relationships. It's about trying to do something good in the world.
Yeah.
And some people, just like us,
Yeah.
some billionaire like Bill Gates decides, he wakes up one day and he says, I want to do better.
Right.
And he takes vast amounts of money, billions of dollars, and puts it into clean water,
right,
clean air,
yes,
toilets, sanitation in countries like Africa, fighting disease like coronavirus. So I think that just like any person of any part of society, wealthy, poor, as we get older, some of us care more about each other.
Right.
And that's important. Without people like that, if we only care about ourselves all the time, that would make a terrible society. That's not society. That's a bunch of people who only care about themselves.
Yes, as long as they are rich enough and they gradually they become more capable and more ambitious, and also want to contribute to the whole society, even the earth, the globe more. Yeah, they want to contribute more. Yeah, their visions, their missions also different from when they are still poor or young. When they become adults, they have very capable, have a lot of money. They may want to contribute to the whole society, globally.
The most interesting thing about it, though, to me, is if you take the average person in China, in America, anywhere, let's say let's say their income is, 10,000 RMB per month, and they take 1,000 and they donate it. They're not Bill Gates, but 1,000 is an enormous percentage of their income. That's 10%
right.
of their income. They don't get to, nobody does a news story about that person. They don't go, hey, Dr. Liu, you donated 10% of your income. Wow, good job. They don't. Only when the super rich, like Bill Gates, if he donates 10% of his income, he's on every newspaper in the country. So there are many people like us that also donate, that also make a difference. You're not going to get fame from it, but it's still important, and what we're doing is still important. But yeah, so they, these wealthy individuals, there can be many motivations, but I would like to believe that part of it is wanting to leave the world a better place.
Right.
When they're gone.
Oh, yes.
So in the U.S. taxation on that slide, I have an interesting bullet, number 3.
Okay.
What I call the $1 income trick of wealthy executives. Have you ever heard a story about Steve Jobs taking a $1 salary
I'm not too sure which story you are talking. Steve Jobs, we know.
Well, Steve Jobs, $1 salary.
Oh, yeah, I know, I know.
First,
yeah.
At first, the average person says, wow, only $1. What did he do with his money? Did he donate it? He only took $1 salary. That's amazing. Well, yes and no. There's a reason. He took his salary not as income, but as capital gains.
Yes, yes.
Stock.
Yeah.
The super wealthy can do a little trick. And the trick is, don't pay yourself a wage. Pay yourself with stock.
Right.
And the reason in America is that income is taxed at a higher rate
yes.
than capital gains from stock. So, if Steve Jobs pays himself $1 million,
yeah,
his tax rate would be above 30%. So he would pay more than $300,000 in tax. If Steve Jobs pays himself $1, but gives himself $1 million in stock, when he sells that stock, he will be taxed below 20%. He pays less tax. So, the average poor person in the U.S. pays a higher amount or percentage tax rate than the average super wealthy person.
Okay, I know the trick.
That trick, that is a very, if you see some American CEO and he says, I only pay myself $1, then you should be thinking, yes, because you're paying yourself millions of dollars in stock.
Okay, I got it.
So it's not that they're a super nice guy.
This is a public secret for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it leads to number 4, which is investment income is taxed at a lower rate than wage. That's very important. That favors rich people. That no poor people, no middle people really get to experience that benefit. So that's one of the taxes in the U.S. are very they're skewed toward favoring the wealthy.
Right.
The last bullet, corporate welfare. You will hear Americans say we are a capitalist society. We are a free market society.
Yeah.
But we aren't. In reality, when business is good, when income is good, when the economy is good, the corporations try to keep as much money as possible. They want to pay almost no tax. Some companies like Pepsi, they've had years where they earn billions of dollars and pay zero. That's right.
Yeah.
Zero tax. Imagine if you earned billions of dollars and paid nothing in tax.
So,
but when the economy is bad, when it's a recession, when markets are down, these same companies will come to the public, to the government, and say, please, boss, can you give us some free money to keep so that we don't go out of business? Can you give me $2 billion, $3 billion? So the saying in the U.S. is corporations are capitalist in good times and socialist in bad times.
Yeah.
They love They love to take the public's money.
So
So of course, as a taxpayer in America, you pay your tax to get better roads, to get bridges, to get schools. But when the government is giving all of your money to corporations, to the military, and to their special interests,
yeah,
your roads are getting old, your bridges are getting old, your schools are getting old. It's a problem here. So again, yes, some people will say, number one country. Well, not in everything. You know what the rank of the U.S. is in education?
Mm-hmm.
For K through 12.
Okay.
What rank? Where do you think we are in position in the world? K through 12.
Like what? Yeah, K through
27th.
27. Wow.
27th. There are tiny little countries like Singapore that are way wealthy than, not wealthier, way better educated than in the U.S.
Really?
So
I remember in Singapore, I went to Singapore once. The population was about 6 million, about 6 million people, and the country is really different from other. They have a lot of very, very good rules. For example, when a student graduated from university, within half a year or 1 year, the government will provide a certain apartment and which affordable for them. So in China, maybe 5 or 10 years, a lot of graduates still couldn't pay their house or apartment. But in Singapore, everyone has a house. Just within half a year or a whole year after graduation, they are capable to pay to afford the price of the house.
And think about how small Singapore is.
Yeah.
I mean, they are very effective
Yeah.
at their education and employment. The U.S., how can we say that we are number one? Number one in what? What?
Number one in what?
We're not number one in education. We're number 27 for K through 12. That's amazing. It's shocking. How can a country so wealthy be such a poor performer with education? So, it's yes. And by the way, yes, you can find, if you moved here and you're wealthy and you want to find a neighborhood with a top school, you can. You can. It costs a lot, but you can find it. So when I say that we are 27th, there are some schools in the U.S. that are super competitive. They do as well as the best schools in the world. But that is not the average school. That is the top schools.
Yeah.
So there are many schools, like the high school that I went to. My high school was ranked over 600 in the state. Worse than 600. So, that is not uncommon. There are many such schools. So anyway, the taxation in the U.S. has many consequences, one of which is money goes toward yachts and fighter jets and stadiums for sports rather than bridges and roads and good schools for the children. So you have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about the U.S. as a whole. country.
Right.
The next slide.
The rich get more income from investing than other American, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, if you look at this, the left side represents the typical person. You know, the median. Most Americans have less than maybe 12% income invested. Most have no money invested in any stock, none. But as you go up in wealth, instead of wage, they have stock. So Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Cuban, Larry Ellison, these are people whose wealth is mostly stock, not cash. And of course, they get the tax benefits of that. In the next slide, you will see the size of paychecks, your wage from your employer. In that slide, you can see that the bottom 90%, the bottom 90% of Americans get a teeny tiny wage.
Yes, almost none.
Compared, if you look at the green bar, it's not even a bar. It looks like a pancake.
Yeah.
You know,
very little.
It's flat. And notice that it hasn't changed since the 1970s. The poor have remained very poor since the 1970s. Our standard of living in the United States has not changed for the lower income. Has not changed since I was born. It's a long time. But if you look at the red bar, you can see that in the 1970s, it wasn't great, but it was more reasonable. It exploded since President Reagan in the 1980s. He created so many benefits for the rich that graph is the result. Ever since, the equality gap between rich and poor has been enormous, and we have not recovered. And I couldn't tell you the next 20 years. I don't think it will change. I think it will actually get worse.
Get worse, and the gap will become wider and wider.
Wider until there's a revolt. Until the average citizen gets so angry that they rise up, like they did back in the 1920s, like they did in the 1700s against the British. Eventually, the citizens, everyday people, they will be at their breaking point. Their stress, their anxiety, their depression will be so high that they will probably rise up against their own government. And I mean, in my lifetime, I hope that our children never experience this. But if things continue, it could get that bad. That the next slide is a very interesting slide if you own a business. The productivity of Americans has exploded. It's gone way up. The average American is much more productive than they were in the 1970s. But look at the blue line.
Yeah, flat.
That line has that blue line has hardly moved. Basically, what happens is in America, in the companies, when the company makes more money, the owners of the company, the shareholders of the company, they don't share that money with the workers. They keep it for themselves. And so even though you're working harder, you're working better, faster, more efficient, your hard work basically goes to the owners and just the owners. And and that only lasts so long. When that happens in a company, their best employees, they leave. They want to go find a company that treats them better.
Right.
So you can only do this for so long before the employees leave. But the problem is they go to a new company and they discover the new company is like the old company. And so they a year later, they leave again.
Repeat the same story. History.
Yes, when I was young, it was very common for an American to have the same job, one job, 30, 40 years.
Never change.
Never change. One job, their whole life. About 1980, that changed. In 1980, approximately between 80 and 89, so 10 years, it changed a lot. And I remember that we saw more and more people leaving jobs frequently.
Yeah.
If you ask, like me, I had at one point, I was at General Dynamics.
Yeah.
Big defense company. I left within 2 years. I went to Lockheed Martin, another defense company.
Right.
I left after 2 years. I went to another company, and the first 7 years of my career, it was hopping company to company, because you think that you're going to get a better deal,
right?
Better income, maybe be treated more fairly.
And what's more, it's understandable that nowadays is totally different from the before, because young generation have more opportunities. They can change their jobs very easily. If they are not satisfied with the current jobs, just shift, change to another company. It's not so difficult. But maybe 20 or 30 years ago, it's not easy. People just work, and if you want to change other job, very, very hard. So nowadays, the society has provided so many different positions. You can do anything. So that's why people shift jobs easily. I think in some degree understandable.
Yeah, and it also though makes it easier for a company to replace people. So, if they want, let's say you're 50 years old and you make 25,000 RMB per month, and they think, oh, I will hire a 25-year-old and I will pay that person 8,000 RMB.
Right.
In the U.S., this is very common. They will we call it letting go, fire someone to let them go. They will let go of the older people, and they will hire the younger people that are cheaper.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't say they were better, because in many cases they aren't better, because they don't have the knowledge, the expertise.
Right.
But the labor cost seems cheaper, even though the net result may be that they make mistakes that cost the company millions of dollars.
Right.
But it was cheaper for the labor.
Yes, understood.
Some American business people are their math is a little bit terrible, but I forgive them because we're 27th in education.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so of course their math is not very good.
Right.
So the last chart
Mm-hmm.
is something interesting about American society.
Mm-hmm.
We, in the early 1900s, we began forming unions. The idea of a group of employees, a group of people,
Mm-hmm.
coming together to bargain with their employer to get better wages, to get better benefits, and in exchange, they agree to certain performance. It didn't exist prior to then. This once it came into being, this graph is the result, which is their standards of living went up. The unions, of course, as their union membership went up,
Mm-hmm.
many middle class, remember I said 3 classes, middle class Americans had the benefits of unions. For garment workers, they make clothing.
Yeah.
Automobile workers, electrician, plumber, welder, they all have unions. But in recent years, the government has become very anti-union.
Right.
They don't like them.
Mm-hmm.
And union membership has also gone down. Fewer people joining the unions that used to protect their jobs and their wage. And now that's part of, not all of, but part of why that American middle class has declined. You get quite a few fewer people in these good-paying union jobs. So the last 10 slides or so has been about the wealth and the taxation and the impact on your wealth in America. The next 2 slides, I just want to give you a little idea of the debt, the amount that we owe as Americans.
Yeah.
And in that next slide, the U.S. national debt as a country, we owe $22.7 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I put the amount in yen. There's a lot of zeros in that number.
Yeah.
That is how much the United States owes. And by the way, 1.138 trillion of it is owed China. The Chinese government has purchased so much American debt.
Yeah.
So
Chinese government helped American. In some degree.
Because that money, when your government buys American debt,
especially during the economic crisis, 2008, Chinese government purchased a lot of Americans' debt.
Oh yeah.
National debt. Yeah.
That's right. And it at the time it helped get the country out of the crisis.
Yeah.
So when other countries, especially wealthy, advanced countries like China, where you have the money to be able to do this, it helped prevent what could have been a much worse crisis in the U.S. So this slide shows you how much national debt, how much interest? We pay almost $500 billion in interest on the loans each year. That's amazing. That's just the interest.
Yeah.
That's not even the original loan amount. And then how much China and Japan owns of that debt. Now, that's at a national level.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the average family
Yeah.
in the U.S. And that is the next slide.
Yeah. Personal debt.
US personal debt. If you take all the families in the U.S. and you add up all their debt, it's about $13 trillion. It's enormous. It is so large that it will pretty much never be paid off. The Americans will always be at this point in a lot of debt. How much? Well, point number 3. Each family, 87% of them, has about $135,000 in U.S. debt per family.
Wow.
87%.
Not very much. Not a.
It's for them. It's a lot, though. Remember their income. Their income is not that high. Average income is much lower, but they're paying so much interest on this debt that the debt doesn't really go down, right? If you have a loan, and you have your interest, and you're only paying this far, this never goes down. Your interest remains, your principal, we call it the principal, remains. So that 135,000, it doesn't really go down very much each year. So these families remain in a lot of debt. It's credit cards. Credit cards are how Americans mostly spend more than they make, more than they earn. They put it on a credit card. Ooh, I want a nice purse. Credit card. Ooh, I want a nice couch. Credit card. I want a nice computer.
Area.
Credit card.
We need to use credit card.
Everything. They put credit card debt. It's amazing. So credit card, student loans, it's very expensive to go to college in the U.S. By the way, on Friday and Saturday of this week, we will talk about that.
Okay.
We will talk about how expensive it is to go to American universities. Car loans and mortgages, which is loan. So, there's a lot of debt, but there is one good point. The highest earning average salary is families from Asia.
Yes, Asia.
So, Chinese family, Japanese family, the highest earning average salaries in the U.S., no matter what job, is typically families who came from somewhere in Asia. Because, what did I tell you? When they come to the U.S., even though they live in a new country, they bring their values, their culture, their beliefs. If they were frugal in China, they're frugal.
Yeah.
If you're smart there, you're smart here.
Yes.
And the average income is highest in those families. The average savings, the average income, lower spending. It's cultural. You bring your culture to America. So, I hope that as you listened to all of this, that your impression of life in America is a little bit more balanced.
Yes.
Yes, we have beautiful places that you can visit. Yes, we have, some beautiful parts in some cities.
Yeah.
beautiful buildings, but we also have a lot of work to do, a lot of things that aren't in good condition, a lot of things that need to be changed, or we are going to be much worse off in the future.
Yeah.
So, great country to visit if you want to check it out. And if for example your children want to come and experience American universities, but don't think that it is all perfect here.
Right.
American
is not always paradise. Still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the phrase, "The grass is greener on the other side of the fence"?
This
is.
Can you tell me?
It's an expression. Imagine you live next door to your neighbor, and it's a fence, and you have your grass, and you have your neighbor's grass on the ground. The saying means when you look into your neighbor's yard and you see the grass, you go, "Oh, it looks nicer there than over here in my yard. I think that it must be better over there. Maybe better to live at my neighbor's house." So,
just by imagination. That's illusion. Imagination, not a reality.
Yes, that's right. If you are living in China today and you say, "I don't like this, I don't like that, I wish this was different, I wish that was different." Oh, look, in America looks amazing. We say, well, the grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence. So when you come here, you will say, "Oh, the grass isn't greener. It's the same as back home."
It's the same. Yes.
It's not much different. Maybe a little bit different in certain ways, but overall, not much different.
So in many aspects, China and American almost the same. For example, the gap between the rich and the poor becomes wider and wider. The same. China and American is the same.
Yes. If you are a millionaire in China and you come to America and you give up all your money, yes, of course, it's going to feel very different because you're going to be living like a poor person in America. But if you're a millionaire in China and you come to America and you live like a millionaire, you're not going to notice the difference.
Yes.
You're still going to have amazing house. You're still going to have amazing cars, amazing clothing, amazing trips. If you're at the same income level, you won't notice a difference. If someone from a village in rural China comes here and lives in a rural part of America, it won't be really, really different. Little bit. They
almost the same, similar.
maybe the water quality will be better. Maybe, not guaranteed. Maybe, but it will mostly be
the same.
Similar.
Yeah, similar.
And so just keep that in mind. It's yes, every country has some great things to offer, but we have some things that aren't so nice.
But as far as my impression is concerned, the poorest places in America are not. Some areas are not as poor as those in China. Some places are really extremely poor. I have traveled to many places, really poor. But in America, the rural areas poor, but not as poor as those in China. Generally speaking,
So that's why I say you will see some difference. For example, in rural China, maybe there's no toilet inside. Maybe the water, there's no, you can't go in the house and turn a faucet.
Right.
And get water. Maybe you can't take a shower.
Mm-hmm.
In some of rural America, you can do this. But there are towns in America today
mm-hmm.
that are so poor that they
mm-hmm.
too go
out
for the bath. They too can't get water in their house.
Yes.
Out to a well and get it. So, but it's fewer than China because we have smaller population.
Yes.
China has so many more rural people living in rural areas. So
yes.
It's just it's numbers, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's generally speaking, the standard for the poorest of the poor will be a little bit more, a little bit better here.
Yeah.
But if you're at about the same level, if you're middle class, you come middle class will feel about the same.
Yes. From today's conversation, I think on the one hand, everyone, no matter which country we are about our home country, we must patriotic. This is the first point. The second is we must also face up to the reality. Some people are rich, some people are still poor. Even the gap is between the rich and the poor is becoming wider and wider. We must know it's not good to the whole society, and anyway, we just can do something by ourselves to do our best to change our family life and to compare. I think just because you came to China and you know a lot of Chinese reality, and you may feel different impressions. It's great. Today you have very good, excellent presentation. At the end of today's conversation, can you give a couple of sentences to our audience to maybe summary?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So, first, yes, the things that you see on TV and in the movies, that is not an accurate depiction of all of America.
Mm-hmm.
There are things like that in
mm-hmm.
parts of America, not everywhere. And the second is, for many American families, they have the same worries, the same concerns, the same dreams.
Yeah.
Hopes.
Okay.
You're not going to find that it's different there. They want the same things for their families and their children.
Okay, thank you. Today we know a lot about American. Some are just illusion, imagination. Some are reality. We have to face up to our real life. And anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for your today's presentation. Let's say goodbye to our audience. See you tomorrow next time. Okay, how about tomorrow's topic? Can you tell us tomorrow's topic?
Oh, tomorrow, another interesting topic. I like it, on dating, marriage, and divorce.
About management, dating. Maybe a lot of young generation we will love that.
I think to see how that works in the U.S. So, we'll talk about that tomorrow night.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay,
morning.
bye-bye.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow noon.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.